I honestly don't understand how this keeps on happening, but it does, and thank God, because this is some great entertainment. Once again, everyone's favorite, Pirate, I'm out of mana, now confirmed, Gay Fury, who is a master coder and hacker, who no one has ever seen coding or hacking, only deleting lines in a PDF folder about points what he wants to do, and making paint pictures. Software has once again found a way to absolutely humiliate himself. And this time, it gets worse. And in fact, it has gotten so worse that Moist Critical, Penguin Z, and it doesn't matter if you like him or you don't like him or whatever, the fact that matters is here that he has somehow 17 million subscribers, and even he now is talking negatively about PirateSoftware being a complete idiot who doesn't understand, well, almost honestly anything that he ever talks about. It's mind-blowing how one person can do so much to destroy himself just because of a fragile ego. All of this just because his ego could not handle a disaster in a dungeon. Not even the World of Warcraft raid, but the dungeon.
You know what this is right here, pal? Huh, tough guy. You feeling lucky? Yeah, that's right. Spirit Fingers. Do you know why? Because it's been about 30 hours since I last slept, and I've done 3 different intros, all of which crash and burned, and I am off my gourd, so now I'm going wacko mode. But, even in my sleep-deprived state, I am still lucid enough to recognize how cattywampus the AAA gaming space has become. Like, the gaming industry has so many things that I have bitched and moaned about. Probably the biggest practice that I've been most vocal about, not exactly shy on, is the topic of you will own nothing and be happy. The Ubisoft motto. God.
Bro, PirateSoftware hears that and he says, that sounds pretty good actually. 10 out of 10.
Rest that company's soul. What a pile of dog shit. But it's not just Ubisoft. That has become a prevalent business strategy across the gaming industry. You will own nothing. You will be happy. You're basically... You come away with the idea of ownership of whatever games you purchase. I've worn this topic out more than a fleshlight in a frat house, but it is something I am very passionate about. The gaming industry is getting away with more and more garbage where they'll take a shit in your mouth and you're expected to thank them for adding some flavor to your taste buds. It's terrible. And
the best part, that no longer works.
There is an initiative that has been aiming to fight back against a lot of these practices that I think really need some big overhaul. And it's an initiative that I think a lot of you are probably very familiar with. It's called Stop Killing Games. And I've followed it since its inception. I've talked about it on stream quite a few times, though this is my first video going over it. And I regret that now because I see it wasn't going as well as I thought it was. Admittedly, I didn't follow how successful the initiative was, only that it was aiming to do good for consumers, and that it was taking proper steps.
Yeah, and PirateSoftware was like, no, I don't like that. No, consumers bad.
Legally to get there, and it was going through all of the right channels. And now today I watched a video from the guy that's spearheading this. His name is Ross. He posted a video called The End of Stop Killing Games where he's giving an update on where everything's at and how it's kind of at the finish line here with a lot of failure to show for it, with only a few other chances to fight back. Now before getting into the weeds on...
And the person responsible for this is pretty much PirateSoftware. If you're new and you don't exactly understand what is, here's the quick rundown of what happened. Stop Killing Games is an initiative that, is trying to make developers accountable for, creating a game that, doesn't make enough money and gets shut down after 3 years and then no one can play it. The idea is that they're supposed to make it playable in some way, either have offline mode or something of that nature, which wouldn't technically be that devastatingly hard. PirateSoftware now comes in the picture, and he looks at that, and he completely lies about everything that represents. He makes up a bunch of things that they are for, even though they're not, and he completely lies about everything that Stop Killing Games represents, okay? He effectively makes it out to be a situation where, oh, but if they get this passed, then no one ever will ever make a game because the game has to be online for infinity, which is not the thing that that initiative is trying to achieve. By the way, the it's kind of hard to summarize it fast, but their actual goals are very reasonable and very achievable, even for small companies. Honestly, but Pirate Software is like, no, let me lie about everything that this represents and make shit up. And now we're here.
On the topic, I want to get this in the beginning because I imagine the vast majority of people won't watch the whole thing. I'm putting a link to the full video on Stop Killing Games, as well as a link to where you'd go to help support the
Like
Stop
the
Killing
video,
Games initiative.
subscribe.
Because there's only a little bit of time left for the most important parts of it now that it's at the end. So if you know what the movement is and want to support it but didn't know where, the resources are in the description, or if you want to get it right from like the source, I have a link to his video. But I want to go into it myself here because it is a topic that I do feel very strongly about. But for those that don't know anything about Stop Killing Games, I'm going to let him explain it in his own words, so that way you can get an actual, correct, informed explanation of what the initiative is. And the reason I say it like that, kind of like fucking all, pinky out, snooty, is because a lot of people don't even really know what this is because of people like PirateSoftware completely misrepresenting what the initiative was.
Yeah. And the thing about PirateSoftware is, now that we know, is the fact that the guy, I never watched him, but the thing is about him, he speaks on everything with amazing authority, like he knows everything. And the moment it actually strikes a field that you actually know stuff about, everyone is instantly like, wait, this guy doesn't fucking know anything that he's talking about. He's just pretty much almost making stuff up. And that is true. And I don't understand how PirateSoftware even became famous and how he actually even made it, because it doesn't make sense. And he's just lying. He effectively has been lying about everything and just pretending that he knows stuff about anything. And the moment someone comes out and calls him out on being bad, he just bans them on chat. He has been known for abusing DMCAs and a lot of other bad things. It's insane.
Refresher, Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement
Bless you.
to stop publishers from effectively destroying video games they have already sold to customers.
I'll pause right there. The simplest, bare bones, birthday suit, butt-ass naked explanation for what this is. Stop destroying things that people have paid money to own. I think that is a very understandable, very reasonable take. Very
Damn right.
agreeable. Now I want to quickly jump to a different spot in this video because I think it's important to have this in the beginning because it's something a lot of people have heard that comes from someone that is just wrong about it. It's the PirateSoftware portion. Ross is addressing the video PirateSoftware made many months ago. Ross even says that he didn't plan on doing that because he didn't want to be seen as using this for drama farming, because
Which is an absolute mistake. If someone just comes out and lies about you, you should address that. You should absolutely squash it. So yeah, that was a big mistake because he did not fight against PirateSoftware completely misrepresenting him.
it would start to make the movement look less of like a legitimate initiative and more of just like drama slop content type thing. But he finally starts talking about PirateSoftware here because it's at the end of the life cycle of this initiative and it's not looking promising, so he's willing to do anything to try and set the record straight and hopefully start getting more momentum back to the movement, because the damage PirateSoftware did to it through his video was substantial.
This video came out right as we were building momentum. Then, except for one boost in Germany, the signatures started drying up like clockwork. Ford does not understand what Stop Killing Games is. Here it is in his words.
So for those who don't understand, the Stop Killing Games initiatives is basically, we don't want single-player games
No.
to have DRM that the developers can turn off and thus render the single-player games inactive anymore. This is what they want to change. They need
Yes. Again, this is what Pirate Software does constantly. It is a miracle that it took so honestly long for it to come out. And I mean, he still holds relevance because his fans are really insanely stupid diehards. Okay? Every video negative about Pirate Software has a bunch of people commenting, "It's over, why are you bringing this up? Move on, this is unsustainable, stop drama farming." Bruv, absolutely pathetic, by the way, obviously. Yeah, this is what this guy did for literally years until it all just crumbled down because he finally interacted with other people who were not willing to take his shit online. In World of Warcraft, of all places, and holy. We kind of literally, by the way, have Yamato to thank for this because if he didn't push back against this, Pirate Software probably would have been fine. Amazing. It's crazy, okay? And this is what he does. He just talks about something that he does not understand, he does not know, like he's an expert on it. He never doubts anything that he's saying, and even I don't even know if he's just that stupid and he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand things, or he is willfully misinterpreting things, so he just looks better and smarter. I can't even tell which one honestly is it.
to be specific that they're talking about single player games that do not need a server to support them.
No.
And as much as they want it to be about specifically games where it is a single player game that has always online functionality, it would impact every live service game that exists. Instead of just targeting single player, always online games.
No, that's not what it is. Stop Killing Games includes single-player games, but nothing about it is specific to them. He completely made that up, and I have no idea where he got that impression. It's the first line on the website. Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. But the movement includes all this stuff from earlier, and he was mostly talking about the initiative.
He didn't even get the Cliff Notes summary right.
Yeah. And by the way, this is normal for Pirate Software to be that stupid, effectively. When we covered Pirate Software more, there were actually a lot of people emailing me and telling me about, oh yeah, he has talked about this, that, this, and this, each from their own specialization of, different type of fields in computers and whatnot. And everyone is like telling me, okay, so here's why he's a complete idiot and doesn't understand anything that's going on. Like, turns out the genius coder doesn't actually know anything about coding, but in the big picture, he misrepresents almost everything. It's quite crazy, honestly, when you actually hear people who are experienced in the field and can tell you stuff how it works. They just line by line disprove everything he claims, and can even just easily prove it by linking Wikipedia pages that explain what they're saying. It's crazy. Like, Pirate Software is probably like 80 IQ at best.
He missed all the QTEs and got the bad ending on understanding the initiative from the jump here. Ross is correct. This has nothing to do with just single player.
And the thing is, Pirate Software's never gonna obviously admit that because he can't be at fault for anything because he's perfect.
Player-only games that require an online connection, that when the online connection is severed, you lose access to the game. Like, yeah, that is included in all of this, but that's not like what the whole movement is about. And for some reason, Pirate Software is stun-locked on that, like fixated as if that is the actual like meat and potatoes of Stop Killing Games. They need to be more specific in their language about it being single-player, always online connectivity games. When that's just not what it's about. Like, they're not being specific about that because that is not what they are specifically targeting.
Yeah, that's literally the story of everything that Pirate Software talks about. It's insane. How did it take so long?
It is about the whole practice of destroying games that consumers have already purchased and having no end-of-life plans for games that are being sunset. So, for example, The Crew. The Crew is an example everyone is going to reference and talk about because Ubisoft is still currently in a lawsuit battling against it for what happened with this game. I've yapped about it quite a bit, so I'm not just going to regurgitate that. I'm sure a lot of you already know the story about it. But basically, you buy The Crew, Ubisoft pulls the plug on the servers. You can't play the crew anymore. Now it's just an old wet dream of what once was. And they are facing a lawsuit. And while this is in the umbrella of Stop Killing Games, it is not the only thing Stop Killing Games is referencing when it comes to this practice. PirateSoftware is so hung up on it being single-player games that people lose access to, when that is a component of it, but not the entire focus.
Well, the short version is the initiative is about requiring publishers to have end-of-life plans for games they've sold to customers in the future. So when they shut them down, customers can continue running them without their support. So that's one thing Thor doesn't understand, but he also seems to think this is about converting multiplayer games to single-player.
Transitioning an entire multiplayer server-side game into a single-player video game, which means rebalancing the entire experience around single-player, rebuilding everything in the entire game. How are you going to do that with Final
Yeah, this is not it.
Fantasy 14? You're just going to make all the raids soloable? Imagine the day that World of Warcraft shuts down, and suddenly you have to make it a single-player game for every individual that ever bought the game. That's what they're asking for.
No.
Because they would have to sunset live service games as a single-player experience. The idea that suddenly you need to make every single live service game playable single player offline? No, dude.
Correct. No.
This part is more confusing than Finnegan's Wake, because nowhere in anything on Stop Killing Games has this even been like a talking point from anyone besides PirateSoftware. I don't know where he pieced this puzzle together. Like I don't get it. Like, if I'm gonna try and like really reach here and give like a charitable explanation for this take, maybe he's extrapolating based on the idea that if publishers have to have end-of-life plans for their games, that includes MMOs, where once the game is getting sunset, you're pulling the plug on it, you would then need to turn the game over to the community in a playable state, an accessible state, like give the code to them. Thus, it'd turn it into a single-player experience, so the onus would be on the developers to rebalance their game to be a single-player experience for them?
Nope.
I guess. I have no idea. That still just doesn't make any sense, but maybe that's the tree he's barking up with that thought process. I really don't know, because Stop Killing Games...
And by the way, the video where he talks about this, PirateSoftware, I mean, I initially reacted to it, not knowing who PirateSoftware was. And the video, by the way, is edited, where all of the completely fucking insane shit that he says, like this part about needing to rebalance every online game ever to doing this, that's not even in there. So, he on stream lies about what it is, and on YouTube, he makes a video that's a kind of a light summary without all of the most insane points that he's making cut out, so no one can call him out on it. If like the guy's playing 4D chess of lying about everything at this point.
Games at no point ever says any of these multiplayer games need to be converted to single player. That really is outlandish. And the more I think about it, like the more nonsensical it becomes, because even in PirateSoftware's hypothetical fanfic there, why would the developers need to rebalance the game? They would just turn over the code to the community and just it'd be in that state. They're no longer responsible for balancing the game. That's the whole point. They're not indefinitely supporting it. They would just be responsible of leaving the game in an accessible state to the community while they would shut down the servers on their end. Like, they wouldn't need to go back through with a whole development team and, like, you know, tweak the game to be single-player compatible. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I really do not understand that one. But apparently a lot of people latched on to that talking point from PirateSoftware as something that Stop Killing Games was asking for and how unreasonable it was. Which, if that's what Stop Killing Games was asking for, it would be unreasonable. But that's not what it's asking for.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single-player games.
Oh, he's so close. He's so close to getting it.
It is vague, and because of that, it was
It's not vague.
He never has that light bulb moment. Well, he is correct in that statement. It's almost as if that's not what the initiative is asking for.
I know this part is once again just reinforcing that he doesn't know what the Stop Killing Games movement is about, but I have to just...
And also, keep in mind, he tried to read the movement of Stop Killing Games. He just either didn't understand anything that it represented, or he intentionally decided to lie about it. And if you know anything about PirateSoftware, Maldivius Fig 3 himself, the lying part doesn't seem honestly that unlikely, considering he has lied about everything. I mean, his history is so vast. And I bet there's still gonna be like a couple of people who are his fanboys in this video's comment section down below, literally saying, "Man, he didn't lie about anything. What do you mean? Do you have any proof, bruh? I made there's like I have 10 videos on this guy lying through his goddamn teeth about everything."
Show you this because it is so fascinating, because he himself literally calls out that Stop Killing Games at no point explicitly mentions single-player always online games or anything like that. And for some reason, instead of following the breadcrumbs that would naturally lead him to the conclusion of, oh, maybe I misunderstood, maybe because it's absent here, that's not what this is actually about. Instead, he uses it as a criticism against the Stop Killing Games initiative entirely, saying it's just too vague, it's way too vague. The reason it is not explicitly stated there is because that is not what
It's vaguer than a feminist manifesto.
The whole initiative is about. It is not specifically targeting that thing that you keep saying that it is. I don't know how that never clicked.
But those were his streams with a smaller audience. What does he say in his big YouTube video with over 1 million views that he had time to research?
If we're trying
Nothing.
to kill off the practice of developers putting together a live service game, pitching it as a single player experience, and then taking away support in the future,
now he's changed it again and is making up how it's about single player games are advertised. What is he doing?
it needs to be specific about the business practice it's trying to defeat, which is specifically companies that are doing this under the guise of it being a single-player game, but adding online-only functionality that is not necessary and doesn't add any gameplay elements. That's the problem.
No, that's not it at all.
This is a really strong section from Ross here because the clips that you saw moments ago were from his stream. When he took more time to watch it and digest it, he still came...
Listen, if you're new to PirateSoftware, you're probably thinking, he can't be that stupid, can he? He can't get everything wrong. Despite me saying it, despite Charlie saying it, despite, well, everyone pretty much saying it. Let me contextualize the full encompassing stupidity of PirateSoftware. Are you ready? PirateSoftware, the MCA striked a game because his lawyer, a person in Britain, while he is in the United States, and that person in Britain can't even actually legally do law there because they don't have the right credentials, said that, yes, we can copy strike this game because it has PirateSoftware in it, even though it did not. That was a thing that happened. PirateSoftware is paying some guy in Britain money for being his lawyer, while that guy can't even be a lawyer in Britain, let alone in America, and considering laws in different countries are different, his British takes on the law in America don't even matter. Okay, this is how stupid PirateSoftware is. And by the way, after that fiasco of him copyright striking falsely a game that did not break any rules, anythings, and he had to retract it, he still has the same guy on pay. And by the way, I made fun of that before because, bro, do you know how much you would actually have to pay a lawyer to be exclusively working for you and being a mod also for your channel, bro? There's no way that guy was even a lawyer, I said. Turns out I was right. But that happens often here.
Back in that video, misrepresenting it. Like, it never dawned on him. Like, on stream, he could write it off as like, oh, he didn't grasp it in the moment. Maybe later on he did. Well, then he made the video where he still was talking about things that are just not what Stop Killing Games was about. And this was the one that really blew up and really started to kind of dismantle the Stop Killing Games momentum.
If we don't like the idea of live service games as a whole, I get it. Don't play live service games then. Don't agree to those terms.
No, he's getting a new thing wrong now. We're not against them existing, we're against them being destroyed with no recourse for the customer.
Pirate Software then goes on to talk about like the business practice of misleading consumers into thinking that what they're buying is a product as opposed to a license to a product, which is a totally separate thing. And then he criticizes Stop Killing Games for not being specific about that thing that he is bringing up, as opposed to what Stop Killing Games is.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He just makes something up and says, why aren't they addressing the thing I just made up? I mean, PirateSoftware is truly the gift that keeps on giving. Everyone knows this.
Talking about, so he's using that against them for some reason. And then Ross goes into like the license talk.
Our problem is not with licenses failing to inform people. Blizzard says they can take away your purchase for no reason. That sounds pretty clear to me.
I mean, that's classic Blizzard.
Problem is those terms.
Wait, how bad is Blizzard? They unbanned Rickful's account like a month ago, then sent him an email saying, oops, wrong, and we banned you again. Rickful is dead. If you did not know. How do you even make these mistakes? I don't know.
Terms are so hostile to consumers and the medium that they should be taken off the table entirely. This needs regulation. Forget video games. If you look at basic commerce for hundreds of years, when you paid money, you either got to keep what you paid for, or if it was a service, you were told when your access ends. The vast majority of online-only games do neither of those.
He's exactly right.
Bro.
That is a huge problem. Now,
that is actually so completely wild if you think about it.
Pirate Software is correct here about these companies that will mislead consumers through this fraudulent advertising on what you're actually buying, because in a lot of cases, you don't own any of the shit that you are buying. It is pretty much a rental. You get a permission slip to access the content. That is an issue, and not making it abundantly clear to consumers that that is what you are buying is a problem. And so too is the actual agreements, as Ross demonstrates with Blizzard, where it says they can just completely terminate it for.
Oh, by the way, everyone has that. Valve has. I'm 99.9% sure Valve also has it. Every company pretty much has this clause, because I don't remember when this happened, but this happened like a long time ago. I think I was a kid. This is probably like a 20-plus-year-old thing, and it happened to an MMO. It wasn't World of Warcraft. Maybe it was World of Warcraft. I don't remember. But you know why these clauses exist? Because one person paid for an MMO, and then he stopped playing for like 2 years. He comes back, he tries to log in, account doesn't exist anymore. And he sued them for deleting his account for no reason. And he won. And that's why this clause now exists everywhere. Because these companies... because otherwise these companies are going to get sued. If your account just disappears one day and there's not a clause that says, hey, your account can disappear one day, they can get sued and they will lose. Because they have no right to delete your account. They have never claimed any right to deleting your account. So it's illegal from their part. And, well, that's how this happens.
For no reason at all. It really does go against the basic idea of commerce entirely. Video games are in a totally different ball game when it comes to that, because half the time you don't realize that you're just buying an admission ticket to a game. You're not actually buying the game. You also don't know how long that's going to last. Again, to go back to Concord, that shit lasted less than a fucking, fucking rainstorm, basically. Like, there is just so many problems. So I don't know why Pirate Software would be so harsh on Stop Killing Games for not addressing specific things that he himself is bringing up or making up in regards to it. It just doesn't compute. It really is a video that did significant damage to an actually positive initiative that aimed to help consumers in the video game space. all based on his complete misrepresentation of it, which was a complete mess.
If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
Oh no! He wheeled out that line about publishers having to support the game forever. He was literally watching the video earlier where it says it won't do that in big letters. That wasn't enough. We just can't stop gamers from...
Listen, the letters are not too big, okay? They're not red enough. There's not enough honest mistakes, right?
going there, even when we spell it out.
That's the last clip I want to show from this section on the PirateSoftware video, but it's a very important one because this is...
I mean, if you did not think that PirateSoftware is an idiot, I mean, what were you doing?
Something a lot of people also think the Stop Killing Games initiative is about, where developers, publishers will have to support their games forever. Like, until the fucking heat death of the universe, they'll have to support these games under the initiative. When that is not the case. It is very simply asking that when the game has reached the end of its life cycle, the publishers, developers don't want to work on it any longer, to turn it over to the community to still be in a playable, accessible state so the product can still exist. There is some more nuance, obviously, to how that works, given, like, publisher-developer licensing and a lot of, like, the code, the binary, that kind of thing. There is a lot at play under the hood there, of course, but it is something that Stop Killing Games isn't naive to, and it is something that is talked about. But I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I encourage you to check more in on it. But this whole belief that it is about endlessly supporting a live service game, even when it makes no sense to do so and it's beyond dead and in the dirt, is ridiculous, because that is not what it is asking for.
Yep.
And a lot of people think that it is. It's not. PirateSoftware got that wrong as well. Anyway.
At this point, you're probably thinking, but what did PirateSoftware get right? Pretty much nothing.
I'll stop yapping about it, but as mentioned in the beginning, most of Stop Killing Games hasn't been successful in getting change. And Ross has dedicated so much of his life to this, and it's clearly taken a big toll. Now he's doing everything he can.
Yeah, he's bald
And for this last ditch push to try and help. And there are two big things coming up that can do so. And it's what I linked at the very beginning of the at the very beginning of the video about the resources in the description. It's in regards to this.
One is for the UK to sign a government petition to bring this issue before Parliament. Though, keeping it real, I'm not terribly optimistic about this one, since the government response has been a mess by every definition. But the one that has a lot of power, so much so I think it could change the course of gaming history, is the European Citizens Initiative. Now, I said I'm approaching this like a time traveler because with the trajectory we're on, these are both going to fail. Again, this one is crazy powerful, but the hurdle we just couldn't get past was that it requires 1 million signatures from citizens of EU countries. And we've only made it just under halfway. What a lot of people don't realize is that in the EU especially, it's almost a state of lawlessness regarding the practice of game destruction. Is that the vast majority of games with an online requirement say they can be terminated at any time for any reason.
Yep.
Or Blizzard likes to say any or no reason. But according to the EU Commission, that might be a violation of Directive 93/13 EEC. Which protects consumers against unfair terms and consumer contracts. So if that...
Yeah, this is a thing. I have talked about this previously, but short answer is like this. You can sign the terms of service, but in Europe, everyone knows you didn't read the terms of service, and the law applicability because of that is like, yeah, they signed the terms of service, but every fucking one knows that no one reads the terms of service, so it doesn't apply in a lot of cases. This has already been a case. So some company wants to get someone for breaking the terms of service, and the courts say, you know they didn't read them. Fuck off. Pretty good stuff, honestly. And some other stuff is that if anyone has unreasonable terms of service, that instantaneously just doesn't get reinforced, okay? For example, if Twitter had like a terms of service of, hey, if you say anything Elon Musk doesn't like, you have to pay $1,000 fine for the rest of your life, and this can stack, it would be like, no, this is illegal. No one cared. Even if this person read and signed it, knowing that this is gonna happen, it's still stupid. So if this is not gonna be reinforced, that's pretty good.
Term is unfair, that means that part of the contract is null and void.
He goes on to explain how powerful that can be because of what a mess that is. Because there is so much gray area with how the video games currently operate in regards to those protections, it would be a legal headache that would require an analysis of the laws or implementation of new laws that could lead to, hopefully, an improvement when it comes to gaming. So the big hurdle was the signatures, needing 1 million, and currently it's at like 460,000, so it doesn't reach the threshold. I've been very vocal from the very beginning about how little faith I have in petitions, but that's just from the perspective of an American. In America, petitions are more worthless than toilet paper. You're better off just writing what you want on a note to Santa Claus and shipping it to the North Pole than you are doing anything with a petition in this country. I don't know how different it is in the EU. Maybe it really is this powerful there that could lead to substantial change and improvement when it comes to games and preservation. And
that is a chance because, well, I'm not gonna get into the history, but yeah, sign a petition. Petition's somewhere here, okay? Okay? Get a start for it. Shut up. Support the initiative. Here we go. This link right here. Just click on my thing and go. Anyway, that was Moist Critical. 10 out of 10. Bye.